Thought we were going to see Breadman and company breaking a top 10. At the moment, it does not seem so. Well, actually, they'll blast, so that does make sense. Correct, Spaceman. But 56.5 points for them, 7th overall. Again, Finessin moves up to 6. You got Gorgonite at 5, so Huskerrs drops down a bit. Gorgonite, I think, still hovering around middle of the pack that they had. But Team Lula were, again, number 1 in Game 1, still number 1 after Game 2. Reflections, they have dropped down quite a bit, and the reverse has been for Biffle. Consistency reigns supreme. They move up to first place. This is a big Game 5 for them. If they have a solid 15-20 elimination game plus a high placement, they might just secure first place.
I would say so. First place is well within their grasp. If they have a solid Game 5, as you just said, man, like first place is going to be locked in. For Breadman, though, they've been going up. Blasities, we took a look at him and finished now, or at least jumped up the list to team or 7th place. So they're at 55 points or 56 points around there. They need to break into top 5. That's only 2 points away. So there's going to be a lot of moving around between 2nd all the way down even to 10th place. These next 2 games absolutely matter. But a couple of storylines here, Space. Huskerrs revenge game. They finished off in like 18th place last game. Will they do better here? Because they've had some standout games, but they just waited a bit too long to rotate into zone. Then we have Hisoka. Will they have a stronger finish? They've already secured at least 3rd place at the moment, or 2nd place, excuse me. But if they have a stronger finish along with the elims they're already getting, brother, they're going to overtake Biffle. I'm sure of it. So Biffle's first place spot is not a guarantee.
Yeah, and that's a great point because it's not just about winning your own race to the finish line or the eliminations, as you will. It's also about competing against the people above you. So now the pressure's on Biffle and company because they recognize how different the point spread is and how much they need to continue to put numbers on the board. So it will come down to whether or not, specifically to mention back prior what Huskerrs was able to do back in Game 2, 20 eliminations for the trio overall. If they can have a solid Game 5 here, they absolutely can jockey up into 3rd place, potentially fight for 2nd, but it will come down to a solid Game 5. For everybody else, still trying to fight for points. And as we saw it last time, we started off on Breadman's POV. He was able to find one elimination. We were watching this team on the outer lanes. They didn't eventually do much, but when it came to the end game, they were right in it. They were already finding eliminations, and they closed it out. So I'm wondering whether or not that will be a similar situation here. They start slow and finish hot.
Redmond has a team just behind this wall, unless they disengaged and were able to get away, which they were able to. So good on that team for doing so. But hey, they didn't go that far away. Plates are going to be broken. Breadman with the signal is going to hit some shots. And down below we go. Very familiar territory, nearly identical to the end zone we had just previously, where they won in game number 4. And they feel right at home as Limax picks up Dongi. Saltify also down. Did the 3rd get finished? How many teams do we have left? 18, so I think that's going to be a squad wipe.
And I think that's Blasities in the comms at the moment, who is just lighting up the communication. Again, he is a player who has worked his way through the professional league. Whenever we did listen-ins with him, he was just talking at like Mach 5 speed. So I assume that those comms consistently, whether or not they're finding information, they're finding trios, or just third-partying on rotation, this is a team that will absolutely know where you are and how they want to approach the situation. Whether or not they convert, entirely different discussion. But for them, it's just about consistency into the late game. But one trio that we also haven't talked a lot about that is surprising, Tommy and company, right? We started off with them a little bit in games 1 and 2, but they've seemed to kind of fallen off of the trend.
They definitely have. Are they even in the top 10 at this point? I take a look. Yeah, no, they're not, which is very surprising because they did start off strong and now they've kind of been non-existent. You know, that's the biggest surprise. And that was one of the kind of talking points I brought up in pre-show was how well will these World Series of Warzone players transfer their skill set over towards Vondel Resurgence. This is, you know, they haven't been playing this. They've been, you know, playing, you know, traditional Warzone. They've been focused on, you know, refining and honing in so they can go to the global finals. Now they have to switch it up a bit. I expected week 1 to be a bit testy for a lot of those trios. I do think as the weeks progress, we will definitely start seeing them get a lot better and better and better as they grind, because this is going to be a wake-up call for a lot of those teams who are truly competitive and want to be at the top and they're not. They're coming back with a vengeance in future weeks.
That's an excellent way to put it too, and I think for events like this, for a tournament such as this, it's a really interesting spot to be in for a lot of trios where maybe in typical Warzone it feels like we're playing through our progressions as a team, we're working through our strats for the long game. For here, it's almost like 2-minute offense. You want to see what you can work with in crunch time when things break down. This is great practice for when plays start to disassemble, when things start to dissolve. How quickly can you make a new game plan? Can you convert it and execute? And this is where a lot of trios succeed, where we've seen people like Biffle and company really find their strong foot. So as we jump back into the action, we're going to get fully kitted up for the moment. And here we go. Talked a little bit about it, right? Tommy and company, what can they bring to the table? Now is the time to prove it.
Noobs back into the fight, looting up a little bit, get some money. You see on the minimap he is by himself, and by a pretty good distance. Tommy Almond are going to be up ahead, but the big important thing is they do have this almost this entire building locked up, and they are within zone. My only thing is they need a high-scoring game if they want to elevate themselves up the leaderboard, and I think there's only one trio currently there, plus they're on the edge of zone, which means they're most likely not going to be getting refreshed. Once they finish off that trio, they're going to have to move, and now they're moving into enemy territory. So where they're at is great now, but it's going to be very slow for them when they need a lot of eliminations, at least right now. It's game 5.
Yeah, Juju and Kenzie Rosie just went down, and that was to the thanks of Natasha and company. So again, you're looking at a couple of members and players who were very spark heavy in game 1, lit the fire early, but for the moment we'll have to try again on the next life. As the scan comes through, and now all eyes are everywhere. Attention back drawn to the minimap as you see the zone will start to slowly rotate to the back. You have a buy station in front, but you're going to have to work through a couple of buildings to get there. The big question now is where do you start to invest those reinforcements? Whether or not you have number splits, entirely different question. For the moment, though, it will be the height game like we've seen time and time again so far today. Working through the rooftops just comes down to a pick or two.
This is where things start to get dicey. Look at how many buildings are up ahead. You got to rotate into zone. The chances of finding an empty room is not going to be likely, but you don't even want just an empty room because you're a sitting duck at that point. You want to take over a rooftop, just like we are seeing Skullface do on your screen. And to Skullface credit, they've done a great job at locking in rooftops. They struggled a little bit in the first couple of games, but now they are on top of the world in second place. Can they overtake Biffle? That's the big storyline. Their elims are crazy. They just need the placing. Juki's back on your screen. Second game in a row, we have a chance to watch him, and he is aggressive. This is what I expect from this man.
This is the Jukis from the World Series of Warzone Regional Finals. Best player in the world. How good he is on isolating those gunfights. 5 eliminations to his name early on here in game number 5. Again, one more to go as we come down to the final stretch. It's about placements, about points. And those eliminations do matter. So far more in the kill feed. Pinstripes for the moment, but as everything settles and the dust up top leaves way to the power position here, it really comes down to whether or not Skullface can find those picks. We've talked about him time and time again early on, and late in this tournament, he's been able to put a couple of numbers together and chain those kills, but for the stop, it really comes down to these power positions for the ARs.
Money's going to be broken apart. Buy station's going to be over there, most likely for a UAV. Something to take note, he does have the plates for his inventory, but he does have a mortar in his back pocket, so that mortar strike could be fantastic. We're getting lower and lower in the zones. Resurgence, it's going to end eventually. That mortar strike is going to be great, especially if we have an open fight, but right now it's looking like we might have a city fight to end game number 5. Back to Skullface, though, still up top, takes a bit of damage, but he's going to be all right for a time being, but he's going to get dropped, and he's going to go ahead and give out that precision airstrike. Those things are brutal.
I think Jukis was waiting on one more member to get back up, so they should be back to full strength if memory serves. 3 eliminations on the board for the moment. Natasha and company will make their move through the water, not wasting a lot of time nor expense. Don't want to be caught here. Out of position is very tough. Not a lot of cover either, but here we go. Similar spots that we saw prior where Colors, or Z Colors and Super Evan were in, and they were unfortunately meeting their maker there. But for the moment, not a lot of gunfire as they will move their way forward unscathed and hopefully in a chance to post up and play for endgame.
Right. And is this, I think this is the same building that we saw Huskerrs in them in a little bit earlier, right? So I wonder if they're still here. Natasha's going to have a big fight if that's going to be the case. Up at 3 eliminations for her, not bad, but it could be a little bit better. We still have 18 trios remaining. How many of those are solos, I don't know, but that's still a good amount of eliminations. Unfortunately, they are being hunted. Now, who's hunting them? I don't know, but that could be a bit dicey.
Watch it be Huskerrs.
Right, exactly.
Well, here's the question, Reflections, right? Like, so if let's say, just for sake of argument, Huskerrs and company are up, they're above you. Do you take this fight if you recognize that opportunity? Whether or not you know the placing is an entirely different thing, but do you try to take a fight up here, or are you more just concerned about rotating, getting out the zone?
No, if you have, I mean, Resurgence is still available, you can still respawn. I think you can risk taking a fight as long as you keep somebody back, right? Because if you send 2 players up, they get eliminated, okay, you still have 1 more back, respawn is there. You know, you just cut your losses and you move on to another fight. And those 2 players, they'll be floating down, then they can choose a different position, and, you know, the cycle kind of continues. So I think that's the way that they go about it, and that's the way that they did go about it. But for Jukis, he did pick up a player. They wanted to take over the rooftop. They get so, and bit of damage, and the revive revive is going to be their undoing. You see the disbelief, and I believe only one left alive. Is that Lennon or is that Noobs? But either way, they're going to have to stay up long enough. We switch or transfer over to Noobs.
It was Noobs.
Speaking of the devil, to see what he's going to be up to.
It was just barely him. 5 eliminations for the moment. And that is a huge team to take out. We'll hit the ascend. Allman is down. Tommy's getting tagged. I mean, Allman's actually, never mind. He's fine. It was Tommy who was getting lit up. But you can hear those comms saying they absolutely know where the last player should be. Great shots from Noobs. There's the wipe in the knock. Tommy low, and here's that triangle spread this team does so often. They'll let Tommy go on the roam, have the height advantage available, and now they make their mark.
Oh, I love this. I absolutely love that spot. They know where the edge of zone's going to be. They have players funneling into them. This could very well be another 3 eliminations that you're able to pick up. Tommy just got one that was Unrational, who was trying to hug the edge of zone, stay in the water. But, I mean, he was just a sitting duck at that point because Noobs and Co. made that aggressive push. Now they're going to use the water to their advantage. I love their positioning. This could be another strong game from them. I really hope they go up the leaderboard because I want this trio to do well because it'll make things spicy.
There's only one way this Game 5 should go, and it's spicy. We want to see it go down to the wire. With the placements that matter most at the moment, a barrage of missiles hitting the building, but nothing connecting does not matter. Everybody up for this trio. Best case scenario for the moment. Water to your back. Oh, I say everybody up, but there we go. We'll get that to become a reality in a moment. And there, we're back.
What happened there? I wonder if that was a signal maybe taking them down. You do have those high rooftops. Maybe you just peeked a little bit too long. Was there a player just
yeah, it might have been there. Yep. It's either the signal or a player snuck through, and I think that was the latter.
So I think that had to have been a breakoff from Unrational's crew who were trying to rotate in, and one stayed alive long enough. The fact that he gets away because Tommy, and Noobs were hunting like crazy to get that trio finished off, and Jailbreak has been active, so things are going to start getting a little bit more fun. Now the rule there, though, if your trio's been fully eliminated, you have to splat, but if you had 2 players who were up, or excuse me, who were down, and you still had a player left alive, they might be coming back in. So let's see how this is going to work out because things just got interesting.
Okay, just thinking about the approach. Careful on the drop. And right into Hell's Kitchen here. It is just cooking with fire everywhere. The smoke's not going to do enough. As Aydan will find the wipe. There goes the team. Aydan 4 in a row. And for the first time in a while, it feels like we see this trio now moving into the late game.
That's right. We haven't seen them too much in the late game. Despite that, though, they're still up there in the leaderboard. Like, they've managed to at least take over one of the top 10 positions, which is pretty cool. But they definitely want to do a bit better, and I think this is the game to do so. That Jailbreak is going to help a lot of teams get way more eliminations. Now, 15 trios, 32 players still left on the map, so we're kind of back to square one. And this is interesting for a team like, for example, who was staying inside zone, who was trying to really play that gatekeeper role. Now things just kind of got thrown to the wind. You could have had a great positioning in zone, and that could be taken from the players who are going to be floating down. So now that's something they're going to have to consider and think about as they move forward.
For those of you just joining us, this is, of course, the Vondel battles. We're doing some Resurgence Warzone. We have 1 event per week, over 5 events. Today is day 1, week 1. We have a bunch of different creators, pro players, streamers, all competing for their share of cash prizes, of course, but an opportunity to play some consistent Resurgence here on Vondel, which has been absolutely electric. And down to the wire again, we find ourselves near the riverside as water continues to be a point of interest. Regardless of what we may think, it does not matter. Smixy and company will get eliminated. Top 14, not the best placing to be in, but still not terrible. They'll try to make a run through Game 6.
Huskerrs in this team still holding on to a rooftop. They are trying to go back to that Game 2 strat where they ended up winning and play the high ground just outside of the new safe zone. They will have to rotate in, but they should be able to glide to the rooftop if they so decide. There's only going to be 1 building below, but I think it's a little bit too low. So in the meantime, they're going to take this advantage with the high ground, signal 50 out. Let's see if we can get some finishes. Finish off everyone in front of us, so when we do have to rotate, it's going to be a bit cleaner than it would if we weren't peppering shots. But where did that come from? Again, signal 50s. You never know where it's going to come, and that actually might have been a PA. He's gone up the, I believe, up the rope, and they get finished off. Nobody watching the rappel rope.
Oh, man.
8th place. That is devastating.
They went to... I can't blame them for trying to stick the revive together. You think you're safe, but somebody has to watch the exit strategy because Somebody busted through and immediately took out every single member of that trio. That is a huge rebound on top of the roof. And for what looked like a power position for Huskerrs, just quickly dissolves into nothing, and now you're looking at a completely different situation.
That has got to be heartbreaking. You had such good positioning. You had so many players in front of you. One guy takes you down because you're not watching the rope. Comes up and just takes you down. You saw the frustration in Huskerrs' eyes, but can't dwell on that too much. Teams are still remaining. Joewo on your screen. We haven't seen Scripta and his crew yet, so this is great to see what they're up to. We got 5 eliminations from Joewo, who's currently on your screen and desperately trying to pepper the top. That guy up there is the one who just took down Huskerrs' crew. Yep. And what we were talking about a little bit earlier, right? That's not within safe zone. You got to rotate off of that building. But Joewo and them don't have a clean rotate either. Honestly, nobody really has a clean rotate. Everybody, it's just going to be a hodgepodge of players out in the open.
And honestly, their best answer here is to stay where they're at. Try to get into a power position, use a heady, and hope to God that a third party flies through, because you're getting pinched from every single angle, and you have to worry about the push from the back. And of course, it's going to be extra numbers flying into the play. For the moment, though, things do slow down to a crawl, and it comes down to a couple of awkward picks. The wide swing with the shoulder is going to be tough. Nicole is down. Swagg, the only one up for his trio. The last time we saw this was just a game ago. He had one elimination, had to fly into the water. Now he's got 5, trying to make it 6. Ooh. Will do so. Quick burn. That is disgusting, and still alive in the play.
No plates, though, but still alive, like you said. Picking up Scripta's big. There's 2 more to get. Doesn't get him a placing just yet. The longer he survives, though, the multiplier is going to increase. Just 5 trios remaining from the flank. That's going to be Scripta's crew. They come back with the vengeance, but they both get finished off too. So that duo who just finished him out is now gone. We go to their perspective to see what ended up happening, and who was that? Was that Swagg? Got a couple of them. I think he actually ended up getting at least 1 or 2 more. But now Aydan, rated in them. Space, this could be their best placing.
Yeah, this is their chance now to pounce, and it absolutely will happen. 25 eliminations. You wanted to see them get to the end game. Reflections. That is the best way to do it through the chaos with 25 elims.
25 elims, 1.5x multiplier. I said, hey, man, they were struggling in that top 10. Now they're definitely going to be thriving. Not first place. Biffle most likely still holds that, but my lord, that is the game that you want.
My.
And Biffle, actually, that was the last squad that got 25 eliminations. They matched that, so 25 elims 2 times in a row across the 5 games that we have seen. That's what you want to see, though, if you're an Aydan fan. I expected him to do well today, Space, and, well, that was the way to step it up. Only 1 more game to go, but that's got to feel good.
Brother, like, this is the team, the trio that we expected to be high-hitting into the top 4, and finally, you're talking about 25 elims for Biffle. This is a team that's consistently placing top 3, moving through Game 1, second-place finish. In Game 2, they lose to Huskerrs. Game 3, they get the dub. But you're putting 25 on the board. That's a big call for everybody else in this lobby to respond where Aydan and Rated do so in company as a trio overall, to do what they did in the end through the chaos, find 25 elim just from